Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match. Daniil Medvedev versus Casper Ruud, 2021 ATP Finals, semifinals. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Daniil Medvedev is in another hard-court final after defeating Casper Ruud in straight sets. My prediction for this match was correct. I did say Medvedev in 2. But what I actually thought the reasons would be were incorrect. I thought, if you watched the preview, that Ruud would hold his own in neutral baseline rallies due to just the fantastic forehand that he possesses. But I thought Medvedev would win because I know that Ruud on a court this quick against a serve as good as Medvedev's just isn't going to return very well. And it's going to be hard for him to break serve. And on the other hand, knowing the level that Ruud brings to the table on his own first serve, I know that Medvedev will be making plenty of deep neutralizing returns. But it really wasn't the first serve percentage discrepancy that decided this match. Impressively, from Daniil's point of view, he absolutely dominated the rallies. Rallies that went over 9 shots were 20-4 for Medvedev. And by the time you're 9 shots in, you're usually, at some point, the rally was neutral. No one really I mean, it can happen, but pretty much the serve is out of play once you're 9 shots in. The serve no longer has an impact on that rally. So that's really impressive number by Medvedev, and one that obviously Ruud will be disappointed with. The result of that was that Medvedev won 74% of his second serve points. And you can pretty much look at that number alone and know who won the match. I don't think I've ever seen anyone win 70 or above percent of their second serve points and lose the match. It doesn't really happen. It generally means that you are the better player from any neutral spot. So that was why Ruud really never sniffed a break. No break points, couple of deuce games, maybe 2. But Medvedev was holding serve rather easily. Why was Medvedev winning those neutral rallies? Because he kept the Ruud forehand at bay. The Ruud forehand, I can't say it didn't have an impact, but it didn't have a big impact from neutral. Ruud's forehand generally showed up as a point-ending weapon behind Ruud's serve. There was some good +1 play. He did hit a forehand at one point today, like 100 and I think it was either like 103 miles per hour or something like that off of like a floater, which is always pretty impressive. It's a huge weapon, but the fact is it just wasn't a big deal here. The Ruud forehand was completely kept at bay. And ATP advanced statistics are down right now, so I can't see. But I could almost guarantee you that if they weren't down and I could look, Ruud's forehand has more errors than finishes in this match. Less forced errors and winners, and more misses. I could almost guarantee that. Medvedev was more offensive in rally, in my opinion, in this match compared to what he usually is. He sustained good aggression. It's much easier for him to do that on a quick court. And the way he does that is not always with pace or power, although I do think that he did a good job of holding the baseline after his return to take some time away. I think he did a good job of injecting pace on his forehand. He knows that that is something that will bother Ruud more than others, and he knows that Ruud is not going to be bothered by the off-speed stuff. So Medvedev did do a good job in that adjustment. But overall, I also think that he was going for more, changing direction a lot and making sure to maintain quality rather than just banking on full-out consistency and shot tolerance. He wanted Ruud to play defense, and I thought that was really smart because Casper is not, on clay, that's a different story. And Ruud's a fast player. He's got a lot of quickness. But he's not a defensive wizard by any stretch here. Although he's fast, his racket skills from defensive positions just aren't that great. And that means that oftentimes, if you stretch him out, you will get the finish, because you will get the miss instead of the consistent neutralizations that we'll see from the best hardcourt defenders like Djokovic, Medvedev, and Zverev. Medvedev, in my opinion, upped the aggression here to make Ruud play a little bit more defense, not let him settle into his offense. I also think the ball skidding through the court instead of bouncing up does take away from what Ruud's forehand can do. It's just when the ball is coming low and hard through the court surface, it's more difficult for Ruud, who has a Western grip and a long backswing. It's more difficult for him to really get everything into the forehand. On clay, the ball's going to bounce up high and it's going to lose a lot of speed. And that's going to really help Ruud get into that shot and unlock all the power. So ultimately, Ruud forehand kept at bay. Backhand to backhand's a huge mismatch, and it's just much better on Medvedev's side of the net. And Daniil dominated the rallies, was more consistent late in the rallies, made less unforced errors, was consistently more offensive and opportune as well. He was just better. I will say the return was a factor here, the effectiveness of the return. Now, the first serve discrepancy, which I thought was going to be the number one key to the match, and it wasn't, was 82% for Medvedev, which is better than Ruud did against Djokovic and Rublev. 90 Djokovic, 84 Rublev, 82% points won on the first serve for Medvedev, and then 67% first serve points won by Ruud. So the discrepancy was there. It existed. It's not horrific if you're Casper Ruud. I thought it was actually going to look worse than that, but it's still a big factor. And I sent a tweet after the match, and Mark Petchey responded. A fantastic tennis mind, really, really high level. Great respect for Mark Petchey, and I thought he made a good point. So I'm gonna end this video by sharing the point that he made and fleshing it out a little bit. He thought that Ruud had his return positions reversed. What Ruud was doing in this match, first serve, staying a little bit behind the baseline, maybe 3-4 feet behind the baseline. So kind of right up on it, and trying to take that first serve return early, usually chipping it. On the second serve, he'd back up to give himself time to take a more full swing and get more power behind the second serve return. That was Ruud's strategy, and he did that on the second serve. First serve, he never moved back. Second serve, he did move up about 1/3 of the time, but he spent 2/3 of the time way back on the fence. The logic here is that, especially on second serve return, where he was a complete failure on his end to win second serve points, he clearly wasn't producing enough of an advantage. So he really should have tried to maintain a level of aggression that was further than what he did. He accepted neutrality a little bit by moving back and taking these half rips. He just wasn't creating enough. So Mark thinks he should have moved up and ripped from a more offensive court position to take that time away and really build himself an advantage so that he wasn't accepting neutrality off of his second serve return points, which he was. And then on first serve, Casper always looks like he could use more time. He doesn't look like a natural returner of first serve. And I mentioned the numbers. They haven't been good all week for him in this respect. If he moves back like Nadal and gives himself as much time as possible, then maybe he wouldn't have to block/slice as many, and he would have more time to take that half swing on the return. So I think that would have been a good experiment. I think Petch makes some really good points here, and I do think that Ruud has yet to master the fast court returning that Medvedev has very much mastered. He did such a good job anticipating on the deuce side, covering the wide serves, especially Medvedev in this match, and you really saw the difference here between Daniil and Casper. So straight set victory for Medvedev. He will face the winner of Djokovic and Zverev in the final. And if you'd like a preview to that match, check out my last video. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.